9142, the Northeast Railroad Bill. Here this morning to comment on the bill and answer your questions is Secretary Claude Brinegar of the Department of Transportation.
President Nixon has started the new year by signing H.R. 9142, the Regional Rail Reorganization Act of 1973. This signing sets in motion a 21-month process to restructure and refinance the several bankrupt rail lines, including Penn Central, that serve the Northeast and Midwest sections of the country. It's my hope that this act marks the beginning of a rail turnaround, the beginning of a new era of growth for this vital link in our national transportation system. I wish to stress that I view this act not as a step toward nationalization, but rather as a step away from it. The procedures provided in this act will, I believe, strengthen the private sector role of the nation's rail freight system. Without such strengthening, we could well find ourselves driven toward federal ownership as a last-ditch way of avoiding, or rather a last-ditch way of preserving essential operations. This act gives us a far better option. While this act affects only the rail lines serving the Northeast and Midwest sections of the country, including a giant Penn Central, we will soon propose legislation designed to improve the quality and financial health of the entire national rail system. This is an urgent matter, for rail represents one of our most energy efficient and environmentally protective means of transportation. I wish to commend the fine work of the House and the Senate Commerce Committees and their staffs in drafting and enacting H.R. 9142. They gave full consideration to every recommendation we made. In its final action, the Joint Conference Committee produced a compromise version which provides the means for effectively put them to work. The signing of this important transportation bill gives me an occasion to note that the Nixon administration and Congress have, in fact, worked closely together to produce a number of important pieces of transportation legislation. The major recent ones include
Riding public.
Well, the riding public, the passenger public, I think this bill means that after a period of time, and this may be a matter of 3 or 4 or 5 years, that the ride from here to New York and Philadelphia and Boston will be a much better ride, because obviously we are putting some federal planning money and ultimately some federal financing and upgrading that right-of-way. This is a start, I think, towards developing really good high-speed rail service in this Northeast corridor. Penn Central, which has had control of the main right-of-way, has been struggling for money, has had to I think, slight some maintenance, and really caused this system to be less than desirable in terms of the riding public. So down the road, we think the Northeast corridor out of this bill will be recognized as a quality high-speed service. The rest of the nation, I think, is not part of this bill. This really limits itself to the Northeast. And I might stray very fundamental. Both of these bills are very fundamental approaches to the energy issue. Going back for a moment to the highway bill, which was signed by the President in August, this for the first time gave the cities the opportunity to take highway dollars and do something other than build highways with them. Highways obviously gives us the authority to require the states to limit speeds to 55 miles an hour for automobiles and trucks. On 4-lane or more divided highways, it has to be the speed. On other highways, it cannot be any higher than that. Automobiles